Welcome everyone. I'm Peter Vitello, and we have Gretchen Powers, our school adjustment counselor, here for our first coffee talk of the year. Mr. Jordan is not here because of some very important news. He had a son just yesterday morning. Luke David Jordan was born yesterday morning. I think 6 pounds.
6 ounces.
6 ounces,
yeah.
20 inches. So we're very excited for him, but he'll join us in our next broadcast. But again, thank you for joining us. Certainly, again, that on the website, if you have any questions, you can throw those in, and we look forward to interacting with you tonight and once a month for the entire year. We'll try to mix it up with guests and different topics and such. To begin with, we're probably gonna. I'm gonna take a couple of the questions that have already come in. Again, feel free to add more questions, and we'll also kind of give you an overview of some of the work that we're doing this year, and especially some of the work around social emotional well-being that we're doing as kind of jumping off point from last year as well. So one of our questions was a question especially for regarding a family that has 2 children in the same grade, and if iStudent would be opened up. And so I unfortunately don't have a kind of a resolution to that issue right now, but we are exploring. It's kind of a district-wide decision because it would impact the high school as well. But I have spoken to people at central office, and we're looking into that about how iStudent would work and how we would roll it out. We're also very much involved. The iPass system itself has a lot of limitations. We're very much involved at the district level of exploring other student information systems. So that's something we'll be talking about at the district level and at the school level throughout the year. But I'll continue to explore that iStudent issue and hope to have a more solid answer for you soon on that. Another question was about the idea of parent-teacher conferences. And if we plan to kind of have those this year, kind of similarly to they do at the elementary level. And we do not plan to have parent-teacher conferences like the elementary level. The major reason is with 90 or 100 kids, it's kind of very difficult to kind of orchestrate in a good way. We certainly do kind of always invite parents. If you want to meet with your either an individual teacher or a team of teachers, please do so. Another thing that we really encourage is there's kind of a lot of unprecedented ways to kind of see what your kids are doing in school. And so kind of checking teacher websites. A lot of the websites have great deal of information, including links to if there's a PowerPoint that might be overviewing a certain unit of study, assignments that they might be doing. Obviously the homework is there as well. And then tons of our teachers are using Google Classroom. So that also lets you see the assignments, both the materials that the kids are using as maybe directions for an assignment, maybe the rubric that goes along with it. Then what's even the best thing is the actual work that your child is doing. And so, and even teachers who are not using Google Classroom, though most are, often have digital portfolios with kids' work as well in just a Google folder. So you are able to kind of see what the kids are doing, the feedback that they've gotten from their teachers, and that can kind of begin a conversation between you and your child. And then certainly if you have questions as you're looking at that material, please reach out to the teachers as well, either with an individual question, or if you want to kind of go over that work that you're seeing in Google Classroom or through their digital portfolio, and kind of understand it beyond what you get on iParent, or including that final report card, but also just the regular iParent stuff. Please reach out to them. But it is a kind of a cool way that you really get to see a ton. I have access to a lot of the Google Classroom sites, and I also look at the teacher sites, and it's, for me, I can see like day to day what's going on in a much more clear way, and I know as a parent that would be really cool for me as well.
Absolutely. A great way to do it would be to have your student sit with you and have them show you, because they probably know how to get in there and do it more easily than some of you who may have less experience, and they would probably feel proud to show you some of the things that they're doing and be able to sort of teach you how to use their Chromebook. So that might be really fun as well.
And yeah, as I'm saying that, that might be a session that we have at a future time. Is actually have a couple students. We could figure out a way to kind of screencast
That's a great
their screens on their Chromebooks and have them walk us through what they can see as far as their classwork in class, so that and how they would kind of access it and how they might show it to their parents
Yeah.
and stuff. So that may be a good session, as well as that might also we might do that virtually, but also maybe a face-to-face session. We've had some technology-based sessions over the years in various ways, and that might be a cool way. Is how do parents kind of get to see what the kids are doing and have conversations about it. And if we can help with some of those technical aspects,
Sure.
that would probably be helpful to a lot of parents.
Well, I know they get very excited too. Like, I know myself, I am not as adept on the Chromebook as a lot of the students are, and so I know at times when I've been working on something in my office and I've been able to reach out to students to even just say, oh, hey, can you show me how to do such and such? They love it. They love to be able to show me how they can do something on the Chromebook that I didn't know how to do. So that's another, that's a real boost to them as well, that they have this knowledge and ability. So, yeah.
Now, another question we had was, what factors does the math department use to evaluate the success of the math program? And the second question was really interesting. Do you evaluate and monitor trends in student attitudes towards their math learning and student perceptions of their math capabilities? So I'll kind of give you a little sense of what we currently do. I certainly, whoever wrote this question, I invite you to kind of reach out to us. People sometimes don't leave their names either because they forget or whatever, but it seemed that second question was really intriguing. So if you have some ideas about how that might be done in more formal ways, we'd be really interested in that. But we tend to look really at kind of in the moment, teachers do look at the internal assessments, both individually and with their peers on a regular basis. And what they're trying to see is where, what is the level of understanding as the entire group of individual kids, so that they can kind of respond to that. Because there's usually, in most subjects, at least skill-wise, there's tons of opportunities, and in math as well, there's tons of opportunities to spiral in concepts that maybe not everyone got to complete mastery. As well as when they're looking at quiz, they're certainly looking at, okay, this is how they did in a quiz, and maybe they're going to have a unit assessment later on in the month or whatever. And so how can I help kids to reach a higher level of understanding by the time they get to that unit assessment? So that type of kind of analysis of the program. We do look at year-to-year kind of MCAS data, and that's so that will give us some help about whether kids are kind of reaching higher levels of learning. And we do have some conversations about, okay, how did kids do on this unit assessment last year compared to this year, which is some indication of are we being more successful in our program? But obviously kids are different too, so that's it's a little difficult sometimes to kind of measure one group of kids against another. As far as the monitoring trends in student attitudes towards math and perceptions of their capabilities, I think there's a lot of kind of anecdotal conversations, but we certainly don't, and there's a lot of emphasis of kind of working hard and working through problems, and it's not necessarily you need to know the answers right away. It's about kind of continuing to gain greater understanding. But particularly, what do kids think about their math capabilities, or any subject for that matter, and what is their perceptions and what is their attitudes towards math or other subjects? I think most of the information we have around that is anecdotal, but it would be really interesting to, I think we have a sense of what their attitude is towards different subjects, but doing a more systematic way of looking at those attitudes and perceptions and how those kind of link up to their learning would be really interesting.
It would be. It does seem like relatively early on, and I see it in the middle school, kids, and I'd be curious what people find at home, that kids start to develop a real sense of whether they think they're sort of a math science kid versus whether they think they're kind of English and social studies. But I think math teachers listen for some of those attitudes and certainly try to help all students believe in what they're capable of and help encourage those students who tend to steer away from thinking that they're not a math science kind of student, that all kids can be, you know, great math students, and sometimes it does have to do with their,
Yeah.
that sometimes it has to do with a child's attitude toward the subject, how they're then able to approach it. So it is interesting to think about.
And one other thing kind of connected to this, I'm not sure if the writer of the question was getting at this too. We do kind of solicit feedback from kids. So like there was one situation, particularly in you know, we have a new math program. Certainly the program is just kind of part of what we do, but when we adopted Big Ideas a couple of years ago, and we kind of changed our sequence of courses a little bit to kind of align to the Common Core, but also to do it based on what we thought was best internally for student learning. We had some adjustments, and so we had the Math 7 class and the Math 7 Accelerated. And those in particular, more so than the 6th grade and more so than the 8th grade, there was a kind of a struggle with pace. And what we did is last year in particular, we were soliciting some feedback from kids about the class and about what was going well for them and what they were struggling with. And this year there were significant changes made in the pace of both of the Math 7 and Math 7 Accelerate courses. Looking at what is most essential, what might we spread out differently, because especially the beginning of the year was paced, and this was kind of based upon the recommendations of the publisher of Big Ideas, was paced really quickly. And so we kind of made some internal adjustments based upon that feedback and based on what we were seeing. And they were pretty significant adjustments that I think kids are feeling this year. About that. We started to make some of those adjustments in flight last year, but we made them even more, you know, wholeheartedly from the beginning of this year. So that was really kind of based upon some explicit conversations with kids about, you know, how math was going for them at the time and what feedback they had for us. So
Yeah, that's great.
that's kind of, you know, a little bit about how we get their perceptions or their attitudes about math.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of, if any other questions come in, please send them our way. Just want to give you a kind of a little sense of some of the work that we're doing. You know, we kind of similarly to the rest of the schools in the district have kind of 4 main goal areas. All those goals kind of manifest themselves differently in different schools, but the first one is around technology and digital learning. And certainly for us, that's kind of like the high school's kind of jumping to their first year of going from BYOD to one-to-one Chromebooks, and we're kind of in our second year of the one-to-one Chromebooks. So we look at, you know, first of all, just improving processes and procedures. That's more logistical in nature, important, but less at the heart. But then we're also really trying to collect and critically examine the practices we have of integrating technology into our classrooms. What are teachers doing to integrate technology? How are students using technology to try to make sure that, and we've always had this philosophy, never kind of using technology for the sake of technology, but using it to propel learning. So are there situations where we can either do things better? Are there situations where we're using technology, we tried it out, and really we should use it less because it's not really propelling learning? And there certainly are other new and refined methods by which we could use technology in order to further student learning. So that kind of critical examination of what we're currently doing, continuously trying to learn and enhance, is part of the work that in that first goal. The second one actually has a technology kind of relation to it. The teaching and learning work, the major work, in addition to just teachers regularly kind of analyzing assessments and trying to make adjustments to practice to improve student learning. But the more global work is around each course group is creating a Google-based curriculum map. And it sounds kind of simple, but what we found is using kind of Google Docs and the links that you can link up in Google Docs, you can really kind of help document what your course is about, what are the learning goals, what are the assessments linked to those, and any kind of tools like rubrics or other things that kind of help bring those assessments to life. And then what does the kind of the lessons and learning activities look like? And teachers are able to kind of really kind of chronicle that. And the idea is when we do that, we can much more readily mostly communicate with other course partners, communicate with kids. So kids a lot of times are having access to whether it's a PowerPoint or a study guide or some other material way ahead of the game, which really allows them to kind of get ready for learning in a more user-friendly way. But the biggest thing I think for us is it's adaptable. So it's going to allow us, we have this map in place, a map that we use each and every day. It's going to allow us to make those refinements to improve student learning, because we don't have to go back and just like find that binder or that material that's in all these different places. So
Right.
one year we might say, okay, we want to really make refinements based upon differentiation for different reading levels. So we might have all these texts throughout our curriculum map, and we say, well, we really want to have like 3 levels of text, or 3 texts of different interests. Same kind of theme, can deal with the same assignment, but have different kind of meet kids at their different types of interests. So we might, this way it allows us to have kind of our map out there and to concentrate on certain refinements in a much more kind of easier user-friendly way than the past.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our second goal.
Yeah, no, it's great. I know that as part of that, the counseling department is going to be creating a curriculum map as well that's going to incorporate what we want to do for social emotional learning, and we're excited to work on it because, like Peter mentioned, like you don't want to have to always go to that binder or go digging up your stuff. Each of us as counselors have a tremendous amount of material and would have a wealth to like tap into, but it feels like it's all in all these different places. So being able to sit down as a department and organize it all and really be strategic about, okay, this is what we want to focus on with the 6th grade, the 7th grade, the 8th grade, and get that all put together, I think will be useful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And any improvements even that an individual make are now part of this kind of collective document too. So it allows you to both collaborate, but also kind of concentrate on improvements with individuals making sometimes making those, or at least having them reflected. So that's kind of the core of that teaching and learning work. The third goal is around homeschool communication. So it seems like the district is kind of jumping off on this virtual coffee talk, so a bunch of schools are going to do them. We're going to try to do them, these half-hour ones on a monthly basis, so try to make them more regular. In addition, we really, the website we've tried to improve to make it more user-friendly, but we certainly, any feedback on the website, if you're trying to find materials and it's not intuitive or you're not finding things, please tell us that. Or if there's any other suggestions about how we can improve the website. We'll continue with the Rams news blasts, each month, and also other periodic email blasts. We kind of go back with the tension of more is better or less is better, so we want your feedback on that. That's a regular part of our PTO conversations about what kind of communication. We're still getting kind of like, we want more, but I know there's going to be a cracking point at some point.
Right.
We also, again, the teacher websites, the Google Classroom, the digital portfolios that are intertwined. Again, and we're hoping that you're getting more information about what your kids are doing and how they're doing as far as actual pieces of work. So please access those, and if you have suggestions on those. And then we'll also, largely as part of our social emotional well-being kind of goal, be looking to do some parent forums where, in addition to these virtual ones, some face-to-face forums. Do you want to maybe talk about some of the ideas we're having?
Something we've been thinking a lot about. I know last year after one of the evening discussions, I think, I forget if it was CPAC who had organized that evening or if it was another group, but we tried to have a follow-up to that with a morning coffee talk, and something I thought a lot about afterwards was how I think there's a wealth of knowledge among parents themselves. All of you are experts in a lot of areas with your own children, but are also seeking more information on how to tackle certain topics. And so rather than just having someone speak to you, I think it'd be great to be able to facilitate some discussion groups. So thinking of having some parent forums have, myself, other members of the counseling department, or possibly a speaker come in, but for that to be just a component of the evening, and for the rest of the evening to really involve getting to break out into groups and sort of take a look at different topics. There's certainly a number of topics that we could be taking a look at in terms of adolescent stress, girl stress versus boy stress, what it's like raising children in a digital age. I think there's a lot coming up in everyone's homes, and sometimes people feel like, am I the only one dealing with this, or is this going on in somebody else's house? And having a chance to get together with other parents and have sort of some facilitated discussion, I think could be really helpful. I would actually be really interested in hearing from parents what are some topics that would be of interest. So if anyone listening tonight would want to share some things that would be of interest to them, you can certainly email me. The email, like all the emails at the school, is the last name and then my initials, so it'd be like powerg@holliston.k12.ma.us. So I would be more than happy to collect ideas that people have. I think it would be great. I would be interested in doing that this year. We hope to at least 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
Try to set up.
At least 2,
At least two.
and
Yeah.
I think our ultimate goal is to at least do 1 per term, but this year at least 2 we're committing to.
Yeah.
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 And as well as if you have ideas on those kind of forums, the kind of face-to-face forums, please, send those to Gretchen.
Yeah.
But also, if you have ideas on topics that you really want brought up during these virtual coffee talks, or we could do face-to-face coffee talks too, or please send those my way as well, because we're interested in that. This first time is kind of to kick us off and give you a little sense while fielding some of your questions, but certainly we want to be responsive to topics or guests. Again, we definitely plan to have some kids, but we'll also have some other adults as well over the course of the year. We get into, again, that social emotional well-being, so the parent forums are part of that. We convened a task force this summer that Gretchen and I were both part of, as well as some other counselors and teachers throughout the school. And we really looked at the recommendations that came out of the Student Stress Task Force and the Social Emotional Panel, those district-wide groups last year. And we found that their documents and recommendations to be really helpful and kind of gave us something to, we were involved in kind of the creation of them, which was great too, but it really gave us something to kind of dig into. And so some of the things that are coming out of that as far as our work this year and going into next year, we're definitely going to continue with our homework kind of comprehensive review. So we did lots of conversations last year. We set some guidelines internally about homework limits. We also did we did a survey with kids, and we did a couple of different logs where they were actually logging on a day-to-day basis how much homework did they do in each class, how much homework did they do for the night, did those things add up? And so what we're looking at this year is to kind of see, okay, where are we as far as kind of staying within reasonable limits? So we'll have to do more of those logs with kids as well as surveys. We'll also want to continue to have conversations, and this will be a little bit more of the heart of it this year around, purposeful and meaningful homework. So looking at homework that we're doing, what are some of the assignments that we think are really quality, and what are the characteristics of those assignments? How do we continuously critique ourselves with the homework that we're giving? And then we'll also be looking to understand when kids are struggling with homework, either because they're doing too much, it's taking too much time, or some kids doing too little, the kids are just, turned off by homework. I mean, that's an age-old issue and something we all struggle with, getting our child to do homework perhaps, or as a teacher, getting our students to complete all their homework. Some kids are, right on target, and some kids struggle with that, which we understand. So why is that happening, and how can we support? Do we have to kind of revise the type of homework we give? Do we have to give kind of special supports to some kids in order to help them get over that hurdle? But either way, we want to make sure it's meaningful and purposeful and reasonable in amount. We do feel like that some degree of homework is beneficial, but we also want to have it be within reason and make sure that it's quality homework. So that will be a big part of the work around social emotional learning this year. We also will be doing some exploration of the concept of advisory. We've done some exploration around the area a little bit, and some of the things that we're doing in Skills and Flex are kind of very advisory-like, so we'll want to use those current structures we have to kind of leverage, but also look, what are some of the values of advisory? How is the high school using it? How might other schools be using advisory? And there are ways that we can kind of bring some of those quality aspects of what an advisory can do to our school, whether it's enhancing skills and flex and some of those flexible times that we have, or are building something anew that will really kind of, serve kids in a good way. Beautiful Minds, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Beautiful Minds campaign is a wonderful group that started up at the high school, and it's really geared around trying to, take away some of the stigma of mental illness. And I think that bringing that down to the middle school level is fantastic, because those students who start to struggle who are, say, in the Beautiful Minds campaign, or who are kids who are up at the high school level who have struggled, with anxiety or depression or other things, certainly they were once students at the middle school, and we think it's really beneficial to have a group like that here, so they can begin this work at a younger age. So we're really lucky that I'm blanking out right now on the name of
Megan Burke.
Yes.
Megan Burke, and she's incredibly dynamic, and so she's got a group of kids who are coming with her, are going to be working with Mrs. Powers, with Ms. Lagas, and our kids, and I think it's going to be a really great addition. We've had some meetings with Megan this summer and early in the fall, and she definitely has a vision for the program, and it's doing great things at the high school. We really look forward. We remember her well, and the other kids she's bringing back with her, so we look forward to having them join and having more of those opportunities for that high school, middle school connection, which we think is really, really great.
Absolutely. That's going to be a weekly group. I believe the first one is starting on October 11th.
11th, that's a Tuesday,
yes.
October
So,
11th,
that's good. And I think that's going to be a great addition to what we have to provide students at the middle school, because again, students need support around what they're going through, and again, certainly not all students are dealing with anxiety and depression, but there are enough kids who do struggle with these things that we want the general population to even be more educated around it, and to have a place where they can turn, and a group like Beautiful Minds is a great place for that. So I'm excited that
and I think they do also a lot of kind of more general work with just acceptance of people with differences and stuff too, which kind of complements some of the work that some of our groups have done in the past. So it will be a great addition. Another one of the kind of final aspects we'll talk about tonight as far as the social emotional well-being kind of goal is around relaxation techniques and movement breaks. And so we're doing some, and Gretchen will help lead some of these along with some of our other counselors, but some work with staff about what are different ways that you can build in techniques that allow people to de-stress and relax. We'll also be looking at some of the current things that teachers do that they might not even think about as relaxation techniques. We were talking about, I know a teacher who's frequently kind of uses songs and movement in order to kind of teach concepts in her class.
Right.
And it's something that really is, because of the kinesthetic nature of it and the fun nature of it, it kind of like really, and it's kind of non-traditional for middle school. It's like more customary in elementary. It's something that really, I think, does serve that purpose.
Right.
It's not a breathing technique or a yoga technique, but it still kind of can be part of our repertoire of things we do to kind of make things more fun and relaxing, yet she does them because they're really effective for learning too. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know something that I will be trying to help teachers, like Peter's saying, teachers are already doing things in their classrooms every day that are beneficial in this regard. But I think I want to help teachers even take a look more at what they're doing in their classrooms, highlight the things they are doing, and then try to add to it potentially. Like one thing that I love that I see already in the 7th grade hall, and I believe it was there last year actually, is just they have up a section on the wall that just says, change your words, change your mindset. So, I mean, this is a tremendous thing, and the more that teachers can bring that into their classroom, and when they hear certain things, address it. So change your words, change your mindset. It's all about how, instead of saying something like, this is way too hard for me, I can't do it, you change it to, I'm struggling with this, but I can get help. Like that's just a snippet, but like this whole, it's written up on the wall, and I don't know how often students are really stopping and reading it, but it just supports the fact that this is what our teachers are trying to develop with the students, is this growth mindset that and all of us at any given time can reduce our stress level by thinking about how we're talking to ourselves. And and this is something you can help your students with at home. And that would be a good topic that I would love to address with parents, is how, when you hear your child talking about a certain struggle they're having at school, when they're speaking negatively about something, how can you help them shift the way that they're talking about it to themselves, so that they can kind of lighten it up for themselves and make it different? Because how we think about something is directly connected to how we feel about it, and then how we behave. So I could go on and on about that, but it's great.
Yeah, and I think that topic, that kind of growth mindset and kind of helping people, kids, to kind of understand that they're just in a process of evolution, and that they can continue to improve, and not being able to do something right now is okay.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll mention is we're going to create some lunch options And so pretty soon we've been trying to get some volunteers doing some kind of laps at lunch where kids can kind of do some walking after lunch. But also having some quiet library lunches where they might do puzzles or coloring or reading quietly. So having some options for kids who don't like the hustle and bustle of the cafeteria. So that's something we'll be doing as well. But we thank you for joining us
Yes,
tonight.
thank you.
We ask for your feedback on additional programming, and we'll be back with you in October. So thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.